Okay, now I'm going to add the second part of the answer, which is actually the answer to the question. And again, I apologize if I come across insensitive, because I know how sensitive this question is. What is the extent to the leniencies for a Ba'alei Teshuva? I know I'm never going to be like an FFB, but how much should I try? Can I make up, in quotations, my own minhagim since my family doesn't have any? I'm going to address the last point first because I think it's the easiest part to address and most important. One of the things about becoming a Ba'alei Teshuva is that you do get to choose your path. I mean, I was born into a Lubavitcher home. My mother wasn't. My mother married my father and over time embraced Lubavitch. But my father comes from Lubavitcher Chassidim from Russia. So I didn't have the freedom and the possibility to choose my path. My path was chosen, and I thank God for the path I have. A Ba'alei Teshuva gets to choose a path. But there's something that I think is very, very important for people to understand. You can't create a custom-made path. It's so complicated. It's very popular in the Orthodox world today for people to be eclectic. You take a little from this one and a little from this one and a little from this one. To a limited extent, that's fine. It's harmless to take different beautiful things that you can learn from different people. You can learn something good from everybody. But a person really needs to belong to a community. Whatever community you want to choose, Lubavitch, a Hasidic community, a Litvish community, a modern Orthodox community, whatever community you want to belong to. But you really need to belong to a community. And belonging to a community means embracing their customs and their paradigms by and large. Yiddishkeit is too complicated and too involved for most people to pick and choose. There are rare individuals who have great minds and great hearts and are very sensitive and dedicated, devout, who can pick and choose. But the average person who picks and chooses ends up no place. And the great victims in this is the children, because children of Ba'alei Teshuva, they are not Ba'alei Teshuva. Remember that. They're the children of Ba'alei Teshuva, and they need clarity. So I think it's very, very important for people who are choosing their own path in Yiddishkeit to understand that as much as it's American and Western and cool to create your own unique path, it's just not realistic. It's certainly not realistic if you have children. You need to conform to one community or another. I'm not saying you have to buy into every single thing they teach and do everything they say, but you need to belong to a community, accept their rabbi as yours and their customs as yours. Pardon me. Because otherwise it's just not going to work. That's just my observation. So when it comes to the question of making up your own customs, if you're talking about one or two small little things that you want to adopt, perhaps because this is an interest that you had before you became frum, I don't think that's the end of the world. But you really cannot create your own customs across the board. B'chlal, Jewish customs have a sacredness, have a holiness. And the tradition, the passing it along from generation to generation of these customs is very much a part of that sanctity. So it's not just open season of deciding to make new customs. So I'm strongly advising you against making your own customs. I'm even advising you against choosing customs from various different communities, except for one or two. A couple of things, it's not the end of the world. But by and large, you really need to belong to a community. As far as this question of what extent to the leniencies of the Ba'alei Teshuva, I want you to know that from the very beginning, when the Rebbe was asked, what is the philosophy of Lubavitch? The answer was, in two words, no compromise. The Rebbe didn't believe in shortchanging Jews. The Rebbe felt very strongly, and I think he's been borne out, that one of the worst things in the world is a religion that's based on compromise. It works for the parents. The kids, they just don't see the value of it. When they see parents considering certain things important and other things not important, sometimes in a random kind of a way, it confuses the children, and they just lose interest in all of it. The secret of Lubavitch is we give, the Rebbe says, you start a person off with one mitzvah and you tell them that they're 613. So the question about leniency and about Ba'alei Teshuva, the answer is you grow. You don't take on more than you can handle. It's very, very, the Rabbi used to say in Yiddish, nit ibish ziehen dem Stich. When you take on everything at once, you're likely to crash. So you don't take on everything at once, and you gradually take on additional things, like cholavakum, like bishalakum, like afiyasakum. These are things which a lot of frum Jews are not particular about. The Baal Teshuva, who's becoming frum, can adapt these things slowly. And there are thousands of examples, even on a lower level than the one that I just gave, about covering hair and then putting on a sheitel and maintaining standards of tznius. These are things that you adopt slowly. But in your mind, the attitude is, I want to do this all, I'm not ready for it yet. So I think that's the correct answer to the question. How hard should you try? As hard as you possibly can. And of course, you don't need me to tell you that one of the great struggles of becoming frum, especially becoming frum as a couple, is that there's two of you. Or if there's children, there's more than two of you. And they need to be sensitive to your spouse and the fact that they may be a little bit behind you in their growth. And the need to preserve the peace in the home and the sanctity of the home stands almost above everything, literally. I mean, the Rebbe, I know for a fact, couples where one of the family members was completely frum with a sheitel and the rest, and the other was not religious, and the Rebbe did not allow them to separate. You have to figure out how to make it work as a family. So when you incorporate that ingredient, it sets a parameter on how hard you should try and how hard you shouldn't try. And of course, you're asking me this question, and I don't know you personally. I'm assuming you know me a lot better than I know you, because I figure you probably listen to my classes. So I don't know you. So it's very hard for me to answer you. I really think you need advice from a rabbi. You need advice from a rabbi on a regular basis going forward. But right? It's very, very important not just to be religious, but to be reasonable. And sometimes going a little slower will get you a lot further than initially going very, very fast. But I think, again, it's very important for people to know that the goal is to do it all. And then you do what you can. And with Hashem's help, you grow. And I, of course, wish you much success.